Okay, the number seems to be stabilizing, so I think we can start with just briefly the introduction, and the important information is not contained in the introduction. I reassure everybody. So welcome to the Call 2026 Emeranet webinar. This will be a webinar to explain to you roughly, first of all, what is Emeranet, the presentation of the network, which the coordinator of the Emeranet 4 will present this network. Then we'll present the work program. So Raquel and Juan will present the work program. This will detail you exactly what are the topics that are in the call, and the different thematics that you can apply for. Then Cecilia will present to you the RRI guidelines, what is expected in this RRI section, and how you can best address these problematics. Then, of course, we will have a short presentation on the guide for proposals and the general procedures, telling you which countries are participating and the general eligibility criterion, the schedule, of course, of the call and the workflow, and the different call documents, plus tips on how to make how to gear your proposal to respond to the call, and of course some questions and answers. Now, on my side, I just have for this introduction two things to tell you. So first of all, this session is recorded, so no panic if there's a lot of information that is going to be given out, but you'll be able to access the recording and the presentation on the Emeranet website shortly after the webinar. And in order for you to ask all the questions, please use your questions and answers button. Questions will be answered both orally and well, either orally or in writing, depending on what type of questions these are. I will now stop sharing and give the floor to Roland Brandenburg in order to present the network. Roland, please.
Okay, thanks, Florence. Welcome everybody to this Core 26 webinar. And we'll start with a brief introduction to the network. For those of you who have been participating in previous webinars, there may be some new information. Even Emeranet is strengthening the European advanced materials ecosystem through transnational program collaboration. It's a funded EU project that currently consists of 49 funding organizations from 35 countries around the globe. We have a lot of EU member states. We have a lot of regions in these countries. We also have associated countries to Horizon Europe, and we have non-European countries. And if you look closer, you also see that among the member states, we have a lot of widening countries, new member states from Eastern and Central Europe, and I've already mentioned the large percentage of regional programs. So in general, the geographical coverage is very large, which makes it a good basis for establishing transnational collaboration. The network consists of public funding organizations that run national or regional funding programs. These national and regional funding programs provide a budget for the course. So there's no EU budget involved, it's all national and regional budgets, and we have to deal with the national and regional funding conditions. First of all, we have programs that have a specific thematic scope, and we have programs that do not have a specific thematic scope, which means they're very flexible when it comes to thematic priorities. At the same time, we have some programs that allow a broad range of technology readiness levels to be funded. In other cases, the range is more limited, and the overall situation is shown on the right-hand side of this slide. You see that almost the entire spectrum of funding programs can fund TRLs between 3 and 5, whereas towards the end, it's less funding organizations that can fund. And this has to be taken into account when launching calls, when designing topics, because as I said, the funding comes from these programs and they can only fund research that's within the range of TRLs that they are able to support. The objectives of EMERNet for the coming years include the addressing of societal challenges and global technology priorities to support the European research area. We want to engage in a dialogue with relevant R&I initiatives. That's something we've been doing for many years already. And we also use to pool substantial resources for joint cores to strengthen the advanced materials community. We want to upgrade technological capabilities of industrial sectors. We want to contribute substantially to European technology leadership and competitiveness. We are going to emphasize more than in the past the valorization of results of funded projects to promote societal and market uptake by disseminating good practice and targeted knowledge transfer. We also want to support policy alignment at all levels and basically want to continue being an integral part of the European advanced materials ecosystem. In terms of thematic objectives, of course, we have to take into account political priorities and policies at European level. That includes the Green Deal, the Clean Industrial Deal, or the Net Zero Industry Act, among others. And it also means that we will align with policies related to advanced materials in particular, such as the communication on advanced materials for industrial leadership, safe and sustainable by design, the Critical Raw Materials Act, or the forthcoming Advanced Materials Act, which is supposed to be available towards the end of this year. We're also aiming to support excellence in key priorities, such as the triple transition and the circular economy, and also the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular the ones listed here. A brief comment on EMERNet as such. As I said, it's an EU-funded project. We are nearing the end of one phase and starting a next phase in the middle of the year, which means the core 26 will technically stretch across both phases, but that's not really something that will make a big difference for you as applicants. The core 26 is one in a long series of cores. We've had 5 cores already under the current phase, and there will be more cores under the next phase. So we are already planning a core 27 and a core 28. The way we operate is shown in this image, which looks very complex at first glance, but really only shows the cyclical approach that we have. We work in cycles when it comes to establishing annual work programs. And this cycle is actually part of a larger cycle, which describes the implementation of cores. So we're going to repeat these cycles throughout the project duration, and you'll see the details of this process in one of the next presentations. Basically, what we're doing is we consult the network members, the funding agencies, and also the R&I community in order to have a thematic scope of course that reflects current trends, emerging priorities, and needs. The result of the consultation is a thematic scope that shows both continuity but also flexibility over time. So looking at the past 10 cores, you see that some thematic priorities have been there all the time, whereas there have been changes in other cases. This just demonstrates that we're able to adapt to trends or changing environments because the network is very flexible. Looking at the history of core performance, the EMERNet has been around for a long time, since 2012. And what you see that under the three previous phases, there have been calls, but there is a clear trend towards investing more money and also raising more interest among the community. Luckily, these two trends go together, which means that our success rates are more or less stable. But it's clearly obvious that the interest in our course is very high and is still growing. And as I said, at the same time, the budgets are also growing. Altogether, we've funded almost 500 projects in these calls. Applications are submitted by a wide range of beneficiaries. We have a lot of applications from universities and research organizations, but we also have about 30% industry partners. This, of course, depends on the regulations at the national and regional level, whether or not all of these types of organizations are eligible under the national and regional funding conditions. Looking at the clients, just to let you know that we are, of course, also interested in what they think about the course that we offer. And I'm showing you this example of surveys that we carry out. We have asked about the impacts of those funded projects, and we see that there's a lot of evidence for the provision of new collaboration opportunities at an international level. The engagement in new research fields is also appreciated. The visibility and the increased output is also rated very positively. And you find these details and more reports on our website. Which brings me to the promotion of project results. I've mentioned 400 and something funded projects. All of them are found in the Materipedia online database, which contains currently around 150 projects, and the ones from the Core 25, which ended recently, will be integrated soon. I've just mentioned the monitoring and assessment reports. We also publish selected success stories. We promote them also through our LinkedIn channel, and we also participate in events. Just want to highlight the large conference that we had last year in April 25 to promote the 70 projects from the Core 21. And here's a selection of links for more information. You have videos, you have all the success stories, the Materipedia. You're invited to register to your newsletter, and here's also the link to our social media account. Thank you very much, and good luck with your applications.
Thank you very much, Roland. So I will now give the word to Juan and Raquel to present the work program for this year's call. Please, Juan and Raquel.
Thank you very much, Florence and Roland, for the introduction of Emernet. I'm going to start with the presentation of how we reach these topics. Next slide, Juan, please. Next one. This is the image that we have seen already this morning, a little bit simplified. This is the cycle that we normally use for the selection and the call implementation of each call. Everything starts with analysis of previous calls and background, and a comprehensive analysis of the policies in this year, especially of the advanced materials industrial leadership communication back in February 2024, where it was mentioned several areas of interest, especially energy, mobility, construction, and electronics. And after this analysis, we start with the baseline establishment. What we normally do is to open a consultation, a public consultation that is now going to be open for the next call 2027 in the web of Emeranet for everybody to suggest new topics, and also the network consultation between different platforms and other projects that we are normally related with. And with these topic suggestions, we launch a survey between the funding organizations, and that they score from 1 to 5 the topics, and the most voted topics are discussed in the next step. Please, Juan, next slide. Juan? Okay, this one. No, the previous one. Okay, thank you. The topics are discussed in the Strategic Expert Group workshop. This is a workshop of, from operational point of view, is a 2-day workshop that last year was in Alcalá de Henares in 25th and 26th of November, where several experts of different topics nominated by the funding organizations are selected based on their background, gender balance, or geographical balance to discuss the topics. Next slide, please. The objectives of the workshop is to altogether support the network of Emeranet in the definition of the topics, and also to integrate or reflect regional and national priorities along the international ones, and also to identify opportunities of synergies that it was mentioned before, the advanced materials communication, and also the advanced materials that we are looking for this year. Next slide, please. As outcomes of this workshop, we have the text of the thematic priorities that the first draft is by the end of the year and is circulated among the funding organizations, and early this year was adopted, and the text of these topics is going to be presented later on by Juan, but general text was discussed in this case. We try to homogeneous topic description because several topics had different text. And also it was a common discussion of AI and machine learning that it was integrated in all of the text as cross-cutting aspects. Next one. This is the what I was mentioning about AI. It was a cross-cutting aspect that was mentioning in all of the topics, so it was a general discussion integrated in this workshop. So now I'm going to leave the floor to Juan, who is going to present the content of the topics. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon to everybody. I'm Juan Antonio Anta. In the following, I'm going to present the topics that were decided in the SEC workshop following the survey that Raquel mentioned. So in this first slide, I'm showing the 6 topics, the 6 thematic priorities that were decided. I'm showing in red the changes with respect to the previous 2025 call of the Emeranet program. So basically now there are 2 topics for energy, one for energy storage and one for energy conversion. I will give you details about this in a minute. And also there is a new topic, innovative functional materials with defined architectures. So let me explain briefly why these changes were introduced. So this document mentioned by Raquel, Advanced Material for Industrial Leadership from the European Union 2024, and they mention explicitly 2 thematic priorities regarding energy, one for energy storage and distribution system, and the other one for energy conversion and clean mobility. So following this procedure, following this document and also the results of the survey, it was decided to introduce 2 topics for this year's call: materials for energy storage and distribution, and materials for energy conversion. As regarding the topic 4, the new topic 4, this arises from a merge following the conclusions of the survey and also the SEC workshop. That would be necessary to merge the two previous topics, advanced composites and lightweight materials and functional materials, into a single topic with this title, Innovative Functional Materials with Defined Architectures. So this, as a result, this is the 6 topics of this year's call: materials for energy storage and distribution, materials for energy conversion, innovative surfaces, coatings and interfaces, innovative functional materials with defined architectures, materials addressing environmental challenges, and next generation materials for electronics. So all these 6 topics can be summarized in these 3 pillars I'm showing here. So clean energy, sustainability and circularity, and finally, innovation and functionality. So there are, in this slide, I'm showing also a summary of the most significant changes with respect to the previous call. So now batteries, energy carriers, and other energy storage systems will be covered in topic 1. Materials for energy conversion, electrolysis, fuel cells, solar cells, etc., will be covered in topic 2. Lightweight materials for sustainable mobility will be now covered in topic 2, but also there are lightweight materials will be also considered and prioritized in topic 4. Materials for structural and lightweight functional application will be also covered in topic 4. Also, another changes this year is that the TRL definitions, the technology readiness levels, will be adjusted, and the industrial public involvement will be changed with respect to the previous call. I will also like to mention very briefly, because you will be given details in this webinar afterwards, that the research and innovation requirement, responsible research and innovation requirements will be a priority in this call and should be considered in your proposals. So let me now review the 6 topics, one after the other. So we'll start with the first energy topic, material for energy storage and distribution systems. So its content and scope is summarized in this sentence: development of materials that store and distribute energy. And the priorities are sustainability, durability, manufacturability, recyclability, and also reduce reliance on critical raw materials in the European Union. This is also very important, not only in these topics, also in all other topics, not to remove the dependence on materials that cannot be found in the European Union. Also, there are additional aspects to be considered, like life cycle assessment and techno-economical analysis. And also, very importantly, these projects will consider also digital methodologies involved, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, and multi-scale modeling. In the guide for proposals that you can find in the EmeraNet website, you will see the specific objectives of this topic. I do not want to read it in detail. Basically, this topic will consider projects and proposals considering safe and sustainable materials, materials for thermal storage, electrochemical storage, materials for electrolysis, for high capacity and low cycling batteries, and also recycling materials, surface engineering, and also the implementation of risk-based analysis. There are also cross-cutting or transversal aspects that are very common to all topics. So additive manufacturing, multi-scales, and data-driven modeling will be and data-driven approaches, no critical raw materials dependence, and recycling and low cost will be also considered within this topic. All topics do have a list of keywords that are very important for you and also important for the EmeraNet organization to find evaluators for your proposal. So you can find this list of keywords in the guide for proposal that you should choose between 2 or 3 connected to your proposal in order to facilitate the evaluation of your and the assessment of your proposal. Let me now move on to the next topic on energy, materials for energy conversion. The content and the scope is the development and deployment of advanced materials and processes that accelerate the energy transition across generation, conversion, and mobility. So the priorities are electrolyzers, fuel cells, photovoltaics, Also disruptive concepts for energy harvesting, like thermoelectrics, piezoelectrics, etc. It is very important within this project, within this topic as well, there are reduced reliance on critical raw materials in the European Union, and also another priority is the development of lightweight solutions, lightweight materials for mobility, for clean mobility. As additional aspects, against material discovery, digital supporting methodologies involving artificial intelligence, in silico approaches and machine learning will be a plus within this topic. As objectives, as I said, they can be found in the guide for proposers. So there are 5 specific objectives involving electrolysis, fuel cells, photovoltaics, new material concepts for energy harvesting, and here we include all types of clean energy sources like wind energy, hydroelectric, thermoelectric, triboelectric, photoelectrochemical, thermogenic, bioenergy as well, etc. Also, the development of innovative materials and processes for sustainable fuels production, not storage, that belongs to the previous topic, but production of these fuels, clean fuels like ammonia, biodiesel, etc., are also considered within this topic. And finally, as I mentioned, the development of lightweight materials for a cleaner and more sustainable mobility. There are cross-cutting aspects as well. And here again, we consider data mining, machine learning approaches, no dependence on critical raw materials, recycling and low cost, and also additive manufacturing are also transversal aspects in this topic. Again, you've got a list of keywords. You should choose 3 of them in your proposal in order for your proposal to be evaluated. Since now there are 2 energy topics, in this slide I try to clarify how you can prevent potential overlaps between topic 1 and topic 2. So in this slide, I'm just showing what is the flow electricity in modern society, in modern technology. So most of the energy that we consume in the planet, in our societies, comes from the sun, including fossil fuels. But we do not want fossil fuels. I think this is understandable. So we prioritize clean energy sources like wind, solar, hydropower, etc. For that, we need electric converters. So there are 2 types, electrolyzers and fuel cells that basically convert chemical energy to electric energy and the other way around. And also we need systems, devices to store electricity as batteries and supercapacitors. So basically, all projects regarding materials for clean energy sources, for improve systems for clean energies like wind, solar, and hydropower will be considered in topic 2, as well as materials for electrolysis and fuel cells. Whereas all projects regarding storage of energy in the form of chemical energy like hydrogen storage or other fuel cells, or also the storage of electricity like batteries and supercapacitors will be considered in topic 1. So let me now show you next topic, topic 3, innovative surface coatings and interfaces. So the scope is the development of application-driven and innovative surfaces, thin films, coatings, interfaces, etc. The priorities are shown here: stimuli responsive and adaptive coatings, catalysis is very important, catalytic surface, also development of surfaces anti-corrosion, anti-ice, anti-slip systems, also surfaces with optical, electrical, and magnetic properties. And also there is room also for biology-related projects, proposals relating the development of antimicrobial or biocompatible surfaces. Additional aspects, this is sounding a little bit boring already. So again, synergy between industry and academia, circularity, no reliance on critical raw materials, and also the use of digital methodologies like modeling, multi-scale modeling, artificial intelligence and machine learning are a plus, or will be considered within this topic as well. The list of objectives that you can find in the guide for proposals here is summarized again. It include the development of advanced surface for multifunctional contexts, development of surface texturing, surface modification, processing technologies, coatings for sensing and biosensing applications, and also surface for engineered living materials. Again, you've got a list of keywords that you should choose and you can find in the guide for proposals. Let me now move to the topic 4, innovative functional materials with defined architectures. Here we will include development of material systems with defined architectures for mechanical, physical, thermal and chemical, electromagnetic, optical and biological, etc. applications. So the main idea is to develop materials with specific and interesting functionalities. The priorities are conductivity, reactivity, adaptability, biointegration, stimuli responsive, sensing, actuation, and lightweight, as well as design, synthesis, and processing. This topic includes 5 objectives that you can find in the guide for proposals. And here, where we go here from, as you can see here, metamaterials, smart materials, biocompatible, smart energy materials for sustainable buildings, materials for separation of liquids, gas, and storage, composites and lightweight materials will be also considered, and also proposals regarding enhancement of the durability of materials under harsh extreme conditions will be also considered within this topic. Cross-cutting aspects, again, includes scalable processing, the use of digital innovative technologies like modeling and machine learning. Again, no dependence or no reliance on critical raw materials, and also recycling and sustainability is a plus in this topic as well. You've got, again, a list of keywords that I'm showing here in a graphical and a visual way, but you can also find in the guide for proposals. Topic 5 is materials for the environment. Here we will consider proposals regarding the transition towards a circular economy by addressing design, synthesis, shaping, production, use, and recovery of advanced materials. The priorities are biodegradability, substitution or reduction of toxic and hazardous substances, substitution or reduction of fossil-based materials, and also critical raw materials within the European Union. Also materials for developing sensors and to remove hazardous and toxic chemicals from the environment, and also material recycling. There are 5 objectives within this topic that go from safe and sustainable by design development of materials, biodegradable and bio-based materials, materials where the reliance on hazardous or toxic or fossil-based materials is reduced. Also advanced materials for sensing and removal of toxic substances from the environment. And finally, methods and materials for recycling. Cross-cutting aspects, again, includes additive manufacturing, modeling and machine learning, artificial intelligence approaches. And also is very important in this topic, the synergy and the connection between industry and academia. The list, you got again a list of keywords that I'm showing here in a visual way, but that you can also find the full list in the guide for proposals. And finally, topic 6 involves next generation materials for electronics. So the idea is to development of materials for sustainable electronics with improved performance and energy efficient and reduce electronic waste. The priorities are communications, 5G, 6G connectivity, materials for the Internet of Things, for Industry 4.0, materials for artificial intelligence and advanced computing. There are 10 objectives in this topic that you can find in the guide for proposals as well, that includes materials complementary for silicon electronics, the traditional electronics, but also materials for sensors, actuators, thermal management, development of wearable, flexible, and stretchable materials for responsible electronics, implantable, ingestible, and bioresorbable materials, materials with ultra-low power for high-power electronics, materials for more than Moore electronics. This includes spintronics, orbitronics, valitronics, all innovative approaches, and materials for optoelectronics, photonics, etc. Finally, substitution or reduction of hazardous or critical raw materials will be considered within this topic as well. Well, this is the list of keywords of this topic, and I think this is basically we are coming to the end. Is this important before preparing and submitting your proposal to look at the TRL interval within your topic? Okay, so some topics consider very disruptive proposals, like in topic 4, but another topics are more focused on applications, on closeness to industry. And that's it on my part. Just to thank everybody for your attention, and just welcome you to send your questions and your doubts to this email address that you can find on the screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Juan. There are already a couple of questions, but either people can send it to the address. But there's like, for example, one question on the topics. Does biosynthesis or PI rubber, instead of relying on fossil fuel feedstock, fit under call 5?
Yes, I would say so, but I recommend that person to submit the detailed question to our email address, and we can provide a more specific answer. In general, I recommend everybody to read the guide for proposals before preparing their proposals.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So, because there were a couple of questions on the topics, but we encourage everybody just to submit your question in writing, and it will be just easier than just answering here in an ad hoc manner. Okay?
I think so, yes.
Perfect. So then now I will give the floor to Cecilia in order to present the RRI guidelines. Cecilia?
Yeah. I will share my screen. Yeah, now it didn't want to share. That's funny. Yeah. Now it works. I think it looks okay. So, hi everybody. My name is Cecilia Mattisson, sitting at the Research Council of Norway and been involved in EMERNet for a long time. So I'm responsible for the task around responsible research and innovation and the approach we have. So my slides are quite busy, but most of it actually is written in our guidelines for responsible research and innovation. So, and we also have a separate webinar that you have a link to from 2024 that explains responsible research and innovation in more detail. So please don't panic if you get it all here today. Let's see. Yeah, I will talk about our approach and the guidelines, and what RRI is, why it's needed, and how you can tailor it, how it looks in the calls that it's already been touched upon, one example from the call, and how we support it in our evaluation processes, and some additional web resources. So, the Sustainable Development Goals and responsible research and innovations lies as a foundation in EMERNet in the horizontal objectives. And that's why we work with it. we recognize that materials resulting from the program need to be designed for a sustainable society in the near and medium future. And this RI approach is a good way to do that. You then look at the social and environmental and political and cultural or ethical dimensions in your research. You have 4 dimensions in RI, which represent this way to approach the science. This is also explained in the guidelines. You look at, anticipate the future and try to look at the risks that you see. You include stakeholders. You actually reflect on the things that you assumed and the values that you are driven by, and you respond on the way in your project on the things that happen. So that's the basic way you work. The only news I really have is that it has been a quite recent update in the Horizon Europe program. It was updated in May. They have included this chapter on societal readiness, and it includes how this can be informed by the RI approach. And they also specifically refer to the same air dimensions: reflection, inclusion, anticipation, and responsiveness. So it's really supported by the Horizon Europe program, which have all the way have had an overall objective of implementing responsible research and innovation. It's been there all the way, but not with these air explained so clearly. The last update we had on our RI guidelines made this RI in a nutshell. So what is it? For mRNA, it's about making sure that science and new technology help people and the planet. So look at who might benefit or who might face challenges, and to really prepare for problems if there could be any. Although you can't foresee everything. To involve others and to really push you to reflect on your goals and actually change your plans if you see that it's needed. So we focus on sustainability and fairness and support global goals like protecting the environment. So that's, yeah, I don't have to really read it all, but it really describes very shortly what we try to achieve by this RI approach. I think this is almost my most important slide. So what can you do then in your proposal? Well, you can start by integrating RI as a part of your project and really develop this shared understanding of what is your RI aspects in your project. To have this conversation and to evolve a learning process in the project, so you actually will adapt on the way. And you actually should have someone that lead and coordinate your work, because then things happen, really. Yeah, this is also from the guidelines. Funders, we as funders, you as researchers, and other key groups involved in the development of science, technology, and innovation should think about the direction of research, who might benefit, who might not, and consider these potential environmental and ethical issues. So we think this is really important for all of us. But it's really important that you also see that it's not one size fits all, but must be adapted to your project and what you are doing. So foundational exploratory research requires a different approach than applied or higher TRL research. The disruptive path-breaking research may require a more substantive approach to RI than a tentative increment research. So really adapt your efforts to what you do. Yeah, this is actually more repetitive, but sustainability has become more and more important for this program. So we support the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the European Green Deal. So that's why you have to look at the future ecological impacts of materials and their supply chains. And the RI approach really supports this kind of thinking. So they go very well together. Doing RI really makes you think of sustainability in a good way. So all the topics have this chapter on sustainability and RRI. But overall, we say that all proposals need to explain how their project demonstrate and commit to RI and investigating and addressing environmental, social, ethical, political, or cultural dimensions of research. So I will show you an example from the topic 1. And this content is actually almost identical in all topics, but the bullet points are slightly adapted to the core topic. So they're not exactly copies of each other, but they are very much alike, okay? So this is how it looks already shown. So you have these points focusing on the resources, green production process, use phase, and end of life, and involvement of stakeholders as appropriate. So, yeah. And then what do we do when we get your proposals? We do have RI as a topic in the SEG workshop and look at how we can develop it and explain it the best way for each call. And then when the proposals are evaluated by experts, they are evaluated as an integral component within the scope of the all evaluation criteria. So excellence, impact, and implementation. All this is explained in the RI guidelines, and we have a separate web page too, but it really just refers to the RI guidelines, I would say. These are some important tools that you could look at, and the first one is the most important. Please look at the guidelines annex because it all really says all I've mentioned. But there are some other tools out there that you can have a look at and see if they could help you in the process of defining your RI topics in your proposals. And then I also refer to this video on the web from MRNet on RI for both evaluators and proposal writers. It's still as relevant as before, although it's from 2024. So I think that was it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. I see one question online which concerns RRI directly, and it asks how RRI is different from eco design or SLCA. But that could be a very philosophical question.
It's the specific methods you mentioned. It's methods that you use when you do RI, specific methods that are very relevant for many projects, I would say. And then responsible research and innovation is more the whole approach that you build into your project. And actually, it's not something that you just write into your proposal. It's something that it's a working mode in your project, and you actually have people there to discuss together and to change direction and to make sure that you adapt and change if you need to. But it's more, I think that's it. It's a working mode. RI is a working mode, project working mode, and then they have all these methods to do that in different ways.
Perfect.
So
Thank you
it's
for
not,
clarifying.
yeah. Mm.
Yes. So, and it is evaluated. So make sure that you really integrate these aspects into your proposals as well. Okay. Thank you, Cecilia. So now let's go into the real practical aspects of the proposal writing and the proposal submission. I will hand the floor to Fabienne in order to tell us about the participating countries and the general eligibility criteria that you need to fulfill. Please, Fabienne.
Thank you, Florence. So MRNet is operating in is a very open network, and we are operating in a variable geometry. So this means that every year the funding organization can decide if they participate in a call or not. And as you can see on the slide, we have several diverse maps on our homepage, and MRNet is open to all different countries in region and organization to join all the calls, but as already mentioned, it's their decision on an annual basis if they do so. So you find on our Materipedia database, which was already presented before, a lot of information who was participating in our past calls and how successful the respective countries were. You find also a lot of call results in our webpage on the links and downloads. And of course, feel free to check out our annual joint call webpage. So for the call 2026, so far we have 34 national and regional funding organizations which committed to participate in the call. We have 19 member states, 4 associated countries, and 3 third countries. So you have a matrix on our website which shows you the countries and regions which participate in the call, and also in this matrix you see the topics which are supported by these individual organizations. You find on this page also all the information about national regional funding requirements, and you can also refer to our guide for proposals in the annex. You also have there some information on the participating countries and regions. About the eligibility of the call, it's very important that you keep in mind that there are 2 levels of eligibility requirements and eligibility checks. On MRNet level, you have the MRNet eligibility criteria, and in addition, there are also some national regional requirements you have to take into account. So, and these requirements are also listed in our guidelines, for example, the frequently asked questions or the guide for proposals. So starting with the MRNet eligibility requirements. So the main requirement is the minimum consortium we expect from our proposals. So we want to see at least 3 partners from 3 different countries. At least of them have to be EU member states or states associated to Horizon Europe, which participate in the call. And additional partners are allowed, but the minimum requirement has to be fulfilled. And all these 3 partners, which have to be part of the minimum consortium, have to request funded and also have to be fundable by the respective agencies. Also, in addition to this minimum project consortia, it's possible that partners not requested funding, for example, can join. Based on the current situation, agencies, institutions from Russia are not allowed to participate in the call 2026. I already saw that there are some questions have been raised concerning the call topics. I want to highlight that it's only possible to submit under one respective topic. It was already presented that each topic has specific objectives and impacts, and these objectives and impacts have to be addressed because the evaluators are requested to assess your proposals based on exactly those topic descriptions. So if your projects or proposal address a second or even a third topic, it's nice to have, but it will not be taken into account when the proposal is being evaluated because it will only be evaluated under the topic you submit your proposal. Speaking of, you have to choose a topic in the proposal template as well as in the submission tool. And if there is a discrepancy between the tool and the proposal template, topics of the submission tool will prevail. So please also ensure that the tool and the proposal form are in line. The TRLs have to be also in line with the topic description, and the maximum project duration of 36 months cannot be exceeded. There are also some requirements within the project consortium, so it's not allowed that a single applicant exceeds more than 60% of the person month, of the total person month of the project consortium, and also one country, so all partners of one country cannot exceed 70% of the total person months. Please also be very careful when drafting and submitting your proposal because we have a proposal template or templates for both phases, and those proposal forms must be used. They must be written in English, and of course they have to be submitted before deadline. The forms must be completed. This also includes the tables. And then very important point is also restructuring of the proposal is not allowed. So you have to keep the structure of the proposal as it is. Otherwise, it will be considered as ineligible and the proposal will be formally rejected. It's also important that all partners have a PIC, participant identification code, which is available in the EC portal. The PIC must not be validated, so you can just apply for a PIC, but you need at least a requested PIC. In addition to those EMERANET eligibility criteria, also national regional eligibility criteria apply. This means you might have to ask your respective funding organization if there are any additional requests or requirements, and those have to be fulfilled. So agencies, funding organizations are requested to check those requirements as well, and if they are not fulfilled, individual partners might be rejected due to formality reasons. Such examples could be that a funding organization requests an additional applicant for a company, or only supports a certain TRL range, or only supports not all 6 topics, but maybe just 4 or even 2. So therefore, the main message is contact your funding organizations to be very, very sure that your requirements, that you fit all the requirements. So what is the result of the eligibility checks? So it's I want to highlight again that eligibility checks are carried out in both phases. So even if the eligibility checks in the pre-proposal phase were okay, it doesn't mean automatically that the full proposal eligibility requirements are fulfilled again. So therefore, if you are invited to stage 2, please ensure that the eligibility requirements are fulfilled there too, because only eligible proposals are sent to central evaluation. And it's very important that all partners are eligible, because if one or more partners are deemed ineligible and they have more than 50% of the total person month, the project will be considered as ineligible and cannot be sent to central evaluation. So keep this in mind. Eligibility is very important, and contact your funding organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabienne. I see there are a couple of questions already on the topic. So first, there was a question, and I think it's important that we answer it. Can a topic be selected if the coordinator, for example, applies to an agency that funds this topic, but the other funding agencies do not fund the topic? So a coordinator wants to apply to topic 5 and wants to collaborate with other agencies which do not fund topic 5. Can it be done?
No.
Yes.
So all partners have to apply for one project with the same conditions under the same topic.
Perfect. And I think we can take the rest of the questions at the end. So if that's okay with you, we can go now to the schedule and workflow, and I will give the floor to Larissa.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try and share my screen now. Hopefully it will work from the first try. Do you see my screen in presentation mode?
No, it's in presenters mode. If you could switch.
Okay, I have the... Okay.
Perfect.
So hello everyone, my name is Larissa Chaperman with the French research agency ANR, and I'm going to walk through a little bit of the schedule, the workflow, and the basics of the evaluation procedures for the call 2026. So as you hopefully have already seen in the call document, the main call text for the call 2026, this is our schedule for this call, and if you are familiar with the Marinette calls, you have noticed that it is a quite stable schedule in terms of the timeline. So we roughly launch the call more or less at the same time. We keep our deadlines for pre and full proposals as close to constant as we can. So the call has been launched on the 4th of March. Our deadline for the submission of the proposals is on the 12th of May at noon and Brussels time. Then we'll have the central evaluation of the proposals, then a selection meeting, and then all applicants will receive the feedback, and then only the applicants that are invited to stage 2 will be allowed to submit a full proposal. Then the deadline is on 18th of November. We'll go through with a central evaluation of the full proposals, have a selection meeting again, and contract negotiations at national and regional level are expected to start in February 2027. Your projects should start between February and May 2027 for an end of projects and final reporting by July 2030. So this is a very wide schedule, and in terms of workflow, you're going to see that there are some steps that are taken centrally on the Marinette side, more to your left, and there are some of the steps that are undertaken either simultaneously or only at national or regional level. So as we have already talked about, the Marinette's calls always follow a 2-stage procedure, and you can only submit a full proposal if you have been invited to do so. So if your pre-proposal has been selected. Currently, we are here. So we have our call open right now, and this is where you have the processes of call promotion, then you can consult the Marinette Call Secretariat and also your funding organizations to form your consortia and elaborate your proposals. So please do not hesitate to go through the Marinette website. We do have a lot of very useful resources for you to elaborate your proposals, so you can take a look at what has already been funded previously in the Materipedia CSS stories. You can find partners in the partner search tool. You can go through the previous call statistics in each of the call web pages in Emeranet's website. You have access to previous assessments and reports. And of course, in the Call 2026 webpage, you're going to have the call text, which has all of the information you need. You're going to have access to all of the national and regional rules and the appropriate contact points for you to ask more detailed questions. And you also have a frequently asked questions document. So these slides will also be available in the call web page. So you're going to have all the links available. So please do not hesitate to use all the information that we make available for you in order to make sure that your proposal complies with all of the necessary aspects. Once the co-promotion and consultation stage goes through, then we have the proposal, pre and full proposal deadlines. So for the submission. At the Emeranet level, each proposal needs to be submitted by the coordinator partner. So it is one central submission per project. Then you have the partner which is the coordinator doing the submission. Then you have the other partners of the consortium accessing the proposal submission tool to provide extra information, but there are not multiple submissions of the same projects on the same project at Emeranet level. However, depending on your funding organization at national or regional level, you may have to provide additional documents or to go through additional submission procedures. So please, each partner is required to verify that they comply with the rules of their funding organization. And since it has been said before, so Emeranet, all the funding is provided at national and regional level. So since the funding comes directly from the funding organizations, which are going to go through the contracts and the funding arrangements, then the national and regional rules apply. And very soon, a link to the submission tool will be available. And within this link, you'll have tutorials and a lot of supporting information. It is very, very important that you are aware that no submission or modification of the documents will be accepted after the deadlines. So if you do save or submit your project in advance of the deadlines, then you can go and edit it, but will not extend the deadlines. You cannot modify documents that have been submitted once the deadline is over. So please be aware that of this condition, and please take your time to go through the platform and familiarize yourself with the documents that are necessary and with the rules that apply to each agency to avoid having last-minute issues with the submission tool or with submission procedures. So once the submission is, one highlight that is very important in the workflow is the changes that you're allowed or not to do between the pre and full proposal stage. So overall, it is recommended that you avoid as much as possible changing your project between pre and full proposal stages. So of course, the project objectives as they were stated in the pre-proposal cannot be changed because this was the base of the evaluation of your pre-proposal. And if you were invited to stage 2, then you cannot change the nature of this project too significantly. So the objectives cannot be changed. Changes in the consortium should be avoided as much as possible. It might be that one partner could be not eligible or not recommended to stage 2 due to either eligibility rules or due to budget restrictions, provided that they have that this is applicable so that they don't have more than 15% of the person's month in the project. So these modifications might happen, but it is very important to see that the modifications of the consortium are restricted to partners from the countries that are already part of the pre-proposal. So you cannot add new countries into the existing consortium. And in general, please just avoid changes in between the pre-proposal stage. And in case you need to change the project, then it is the responsibility of the consortium coordinator or the leader of the consortium to make sure that all of the involved funding organizations are contacted and that everything has been communicated and approved by all of the involved funding agencies at least 2 weeks before the full proposal deadline. So please do not do this in the last minute. And please make sure that everyone is aware and agrees with eventual changes, because otherwise your project might not be eligible and then therefore not sent to the evaluation in stage 2. So all of the details are in the guide for proposers. That once proposals have been submitted, we have the eligibility checks that, as Fabienne has just mentioned, are undertaken at both stages and at national and central level, and only the eligible proposals are sent to the central evaluation. So please make sure, once again, it is never too much to say, please make sure that you are aware of all of the applicable rules for your own funding organization and make sure that you comply with all these rules. Then we get to the central evaluation. So for both stages, the evaluation is centralized at Emeranet level, organized by the call secretariat, and it takes place online. So for both stages, we have the same structure. So we have each proposal evaluated by 3 independent international experts, and they are distributed to the experts, and we take into account compatible expertise. We make sure we have a very balanced pool of evaluators regarding gender balanced, the geographic distribution, our expertise, balance between newcomers and experienced ones. We take into account all the conflicts of interest. And please make sure that you write an informative public abstract and you choose the appropriate keywords during the submission procedure, because this is important for us to help to pick the evaluators as efficiently as we can. And you're going to have all of the information regarding the keywords available in the submission tool. Then once all of the individual evaluations are done and everyone has written down their own opinion on the proposal, you will have a discussion and consensus between all the experts, and a final report compiled by the rapporteur among these experts. And the final report has to be approved by all of the experts and undergoes a quality check by the call secretariat. And this is the comments of the final reports are the information that you receive as a feedback in the feedback emails once the decisions are made. So once we have the results of the evaluation with the comments and with the scores, then all of the funding agencies get together in the selection meetings, either to recommend proposals for stage 2 or for funding. And according to the evaluation results and to the budget availabilities of each agency, then projects will be selected. Please be aware that the evaluation criteria are different for stage 1 and for stage 2. So here you have all of them based on implementation, impact, and excellence criteria, but the sub-criteria differ from our expectations of the pre and full proposals. Please make sure that you refer to the appropriate documents. Please make sure that you do not change the structure of the document of the template, because it does reflect the evaluation criteria. And for both stages, the maximum score for each main criterion is 5, and the minimum threshold for each main criterion is 3. And the total score is a maximum of 15. And for a project to be considered above threshold, then it has to have a score above 10. Okay, so make sure you construct your proposal in a way that responds to these criteria. And of course, these criteria are also adapted to the thematic priorities of the specific topic as it was just presented to you. So we have here the evaluation criteria also for the full proposal step, which is available in the guide for proposers. So you're going to have all the details available. And the thresholds and scores are the same. And once again, the structure of the template is not to be changed because it does influence in the evaluation. Once we have the results of the evaluation, we have the selection of the proposals. So it is made according to the evaluation results and available budgets. once we have the decisions, proposers will receive the feedback emails with the evaluation results, meaning the comments of the report. And after the selection and after you receive the feedback, then the funding arrangements and the contracts are signed directly between each funded partner and the respective funding organization. So all these arrangements go into decentralized mode and goes for negotiation between the national and regional funding organizations and each applicant. And your projects are expected to start between February and May 2027. So this is, in a nutshell, the main steps of the evaluation. Of course, you have more detail available in the documents, and for latest news on confirmation, you have all the links that you have already had in the previous presentation. So that is all for me.
Thank you very much, Larissa. And since you give a perfect segue, we can jump into Sholing's presentation, who will show you the call documents and some small tips on how to fill in those documents. Scholing?
Hello, my name is Schuling Müller. Thank you, Florence, for your introduction. I'm working at PTG in Germany, and in this presentation, you will learn more about the call documents and the supportive informations provided by mERAnet. And you will get also tips and hints in proposal writing.
Sorry, Scholing, you're not in presentation mode yet.
I'm not in presentation mode yet. Oh, sorry.
Perfect.
Now it's better?
Yeah.
Fine. So, and here, okay. So, and I suppose that all of you know and have already went to the Call 2026 website. And here you will get all the information you need. So you will find the call schedule, the call topics and descriptions, and the call topic descriptions are the same as in the guide for proposals. The link of the submission tool will provide it soon, and it is really mandatory to submit your proposal using the submission tool. The call documents are also available on the call webpage, and you need the guide for proposals and of course the pre-proposal form, which is mandatory. And in order to to support you, you will have also the compilation of the frequently asked questions and also answers. And you will also find the link to the partner search facility. There you can present your expertise and offer yourself as a project partner, or you can find a dedicated partner for you to complete your consortium. And you will also find links to the webinars, to this webinar, of course, and also the link to the recordings of this webinar, and also the links to the national and regional call webinars, which are really interesting. We have several one from Quebec, from Spain, and from Malta. And what is really important for you is that with the call, within the call website here, by clicking this green box, you will also find the list of participating countries and regions. And there you will see on this page the matrix, a matrix table with all funding organizations which participate in this call. And you can also see within the matrix all the topics which the funders have selected. So please make sure that you are directing as applicants from a dedicated country, that your funding organization has also selected the topics. Within this matrix, you can also see the indicative call budget. So you can see calculated and use it as a calculation basis for how many proposals can be funded, at least by the funding organizations. If you want to contact the funders, you can make use of this email, and then all national and regional requirements and regulations, you can find them here in this download. So you will find all the information about the national or regional funding programs and also all details. I will show you here now an example. So in the case of Austria, FFG as a funder, you can find all the information about the national programs and also the link to the program website, the contact persons and the funding commitments. And it is also important to be aware of the TRL level, which can be found when addressing this funding organization. And really important is also to check the major eligibility criteria of the funders. And sometimes there are also other applications, national applications should be made, and please be aware of this national requirements. And here you will find further guidance like website or additional supportive documents. So the information we will want to send is that each partner should contact the respective national and regional funding organization before the pre-proposal submission to make sure of the national or regional funding requirements, which should be fulfilled. So now we are coming to the call documents. You can see here the content table of the guide for proposals. Most of the things which the previous presenters have shown are included within the guide for proposals. So you can, the first chapter informs you about the objectives and the topic description of the call. And the second chapter is dedicated to the call design. So that means that you will find especially the whole call procedure, which was outlined by Larissa. And the evaluation criteria are also within the annexes, as well as the RI guidelines. So coming to the pre-proposal template, which is mandatory, you will find them printed in blue and black letters. So the blue text is only for explanation for you, and you will you can delete this information so that you have enough place for your proposal. So the page limit is 17 pages for the pre-proposal and 40 pages for the full proposal. So the first two chapters present your proposal and within a summary and give an overview of the consortium. And then the 3 chapters are related to the evaluation criteria. So make sure that you really don't change the structure of the pre-proposal template. So be aware of the page limit and the formatting conditions. So there's a whole page within the proposal template with all requirements, this page can be deleted. So, and then I think that in order to be, well, to have a short presentation and to give you enough room also for all questions, I will only give some tips and not go directly to the proposal template, because you will have all the informations there and also the explanations. And so what from our experience when evaluating the proposals, or not evaluating but assessing the proposals, we really want to give you some tips. So please make use of the pre-proposal form and do not change the structure, and be aware of the page limits. Make use of graphics and diagrams, because sometimes pictures can pass much more information than a whole text page. So, and then build your project consortium in time with complementary partners, and have in mind what Fabienne has said about the requirements, the minimum requirements for the consortium. So at least 3 partners from 3 different countries. And also a good balance for the staff efforts within the different partners. So maximum 60% for single partners and maximum 70% for staff efforts from 1 country. And we have all really outlined all the mERA-NET funding conditions and eligibility criteria shown by Fabienne, and please check them during the proposal writing. It is sometimes you write the proposal and have really good ideas, they're excellent, but then you're writing the proposal beneath what it is necessary and which is required concerning the core topics. So when during the proposal writing, please have, the best would be that you will write on one side your proposal and have on the other side the eligibility criteria and the core topic description. So then you will make sure that you will have everything within the scope. And also check with your national and regional funders, so that you are really eligible. And yes, this is all what I have said about the evaluation criteria. Make sure that you fulfill them, and then at least submit your proposal in time. So do not wait until the last minute. Then you will have maybe some technical problems, and it is really a strict deadline. So submit your proposal several days in advance, and be aware that the proposals can be saved as drafts, and they can be revised and resubmitted again. So you can first submit your proposal and then make amendments, and there's no problems to submit them again. So I will close my presentation showing you all the links which can support you in proposal writing, and yes, that's all.
Thank you, Charlene. I have a question directly for you. For the template, should the text for each part be put in the clickable gray box, or is it okay to overwrite it?
It is also okay to overwrite it. At least you will submit a PDF. So it is, for us, it is okay, but make sure that you don't exceed the or you have that your that yes, be aware of the page limitation and also the formatting conditions.
Okay, perfect. We don't seem to have any further. There is a spectator saying that pre-proposal page limit has decreased, but that's
Yes,
nice.
it is decreased, but we have also condensed the pre-proposal requirements and the check. So at least the ethics table, they are not included now in the pre-proposal stage. So, and then also the check list is also not now not within the proposal. So not in the pre-proposal template.
And another sub-question, I think, can you squash the existing sections in 2025? I think it comes directly from the previous question, but basically do not squash anything. If there's something to, do not mess with the template. We have prepared these documents, so keep them as they are and fill in the required space. I think this is the main message that we can convey. If we see that you've messed, it could render your proposal as ineligible, and that would be a shame. So we take our time to prepare all those templates for a reason.
Yes, and if you resubmit, you want to resubmit your proposal from last calls. So, but do not, please use the new pre-proposal template.
Yes. Okay. We have been very diligent in responding to all the questions because there are not a lot of questions left unless there are some more coming up. If I can quickly summarize what we have talked about, as I said, everything will be published. So this whole presentation will be published plus the recording. So all will be made available. Please read the documents that we provide to you on the website. We have a very comprehensive FAQs question which can answer almost 99% of all your questions. We have also provided you with the address that you can address specific questions on the call topics. So this is important. And of course, please remember that your national agencies and your national contact points or regional are there to answer your questions as well. And they can help you also navigate anything that you can have in terms of questions. I don't see any new questions, so I think we can close this webinar here. I hope this info session was useful to you. But in any case, we're all here to answer further questions that you might have. So thank you very much and have a good day.